What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I hate it here. This is the Nerdwide podcast, episode 126, the first horror movie podcast stream, whatever you want to call it, of 2023. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, and with my horror master himself, Chris Rivers.
Me?
Yes. Listen, I've got a question when we get to Black Foam, and I don't know if you know the answer to it, but if anybody knows, it's going to be you. So when we get there to that review, that's there. So quick housekeeping for if this is everyone's first episode to the Nerdwide podcast. Every September and October, each weekend we review 1 to 2 movies of horror things that were put into, like horror movies, scary movies, whatever you want to call them, put into a random wheel picker of doom of horror is what we call it. And that was on the last episode. 27 picks went in, 12 came out, with 14 total on the list for these 2 months, with Haunted Mansion, the new one, and Scream 7 is to be determined where we put those in the list. But that is our first episode we're going to be talking about right after we get done with My Adventures of Superman Season 1 finale. But that is what episodes you have clicked on. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be full of spoilers. We're going to break down a lot of things, talk about a lot of horror movie tropes. And I do not do scary. I do not do horror. But like I said, Chris is the master of horror. And we're going to have some fun with it. But quick housekeeping before we jump into it all. Don't forget to subscribe to either our YouTube or podcasting service of your choice. If you enjoy the show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube. If you don't enjoy what you see or hear, let us know down in the comments down below. We can't fix anything if we don't know it's broken or anything wrong, any suggestions, that kind of thing. The comments is where you do it. If you always want to do more, patreon.com/nerdwide, 3 different tiers for 3 different monetary monthly values, subscription service kind of thing. That's where you let us know where you want us to watch, what you want us to play, what you want us to read, all that kind of stuff, react to. That is the place to do that if you want to do any of it. And if you do, we greatly appreciate it. We'll read your name off, all that kind of stuff. But Chris, I've got to catch up. We recorded this latest episode on Wednesday, so it's only been 4 or 5 days since then. How has the rest of your week been?
All right. I've been off since Friday from work, so I've had a chance to kind of get some rest. And
always a fun time.
I've got more time off at the end of the month, so
must be nice.
Got to get through 2 full weeks, and then I get more time off.
I'm excited because so this week Jamie got diagnosed with COVID, so I've been dealing with that here. Really hit her hard. This newest strain that has hit this year is a rough one. I've had a lot of people at the hospital with it. My wife got it. Don't know from where. We don't know. Anyways, but so we're taking care of her today and yesterday. She's actually feeling somewhat back to normalcy, which has been great because sleeping on the couch and everything is not fun, and I don't advise it. But I want to talk about this before we do anything. So Starfield is the newest big game that came out. And I, of course, bought the $30 version for early access. You get it free with Game Pass. It is chef's kiss, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful game. If you like Bethesda games, you have to play this game. I've already put in, I think, 15 hours into it since it came out on Friday. And that's saying like I've been dealing with, to help and take care of my wife and the kids and losing sleep over it and everything else. And God, it is so good. I advise everybody to play it. I am having the time of my life being a space pirate, and it's a huge game. Absolutely wonderful. So that's out there. And I can't wait to play it tomorrow on Labor Day. So
this is somewhat off topic, but tied to what you mentioned a while ago. Instead of sleeping on the sofa, you should have camped out in the backyard.
Nope. Not anymore, and especially not now. Not after watching these. Listen, going into dark rooms, doing anything normal that has any kind of fear related to it, I do not do anymore. But at least until after Christmas, when everything's all joyous and everything, maybe then I'll start talking about that. But I quote, Jamie says, she goes, "I had to ease you and easy to my list." And she goes, "I'm glad Babadook was up towards the top because I'm easing you into my list." I said, I do not like you, and I do not approve of any of this. So Babadook got me last night, and it's not even that bad. And to preface, I I googled what the movie was about and the scary images from it, and I still was peeking through my fingers throughout the movie. So, and everyone was saying, "Okay, it's not even that bad of a horror movie. It's not even that good of a horror movie." And I was like, "All right, it still terrified the hell out of me." So,
We'll get to my thoughts.
Chris,
Well, yeah.
TV wise, have you been watching anything?
No, no, not. I mean, there's not a lot new
Yeah,
TV wise to watch. So
it's all being still striking.
yeah,
Everyone's going
yeah.
strong. There's talks of the video game industry. The SAG-AFTRA submitted something else for the video game industry to strike, which
Hmm.
I don't think has happened in recent years. I think voice actors have struck before, but I don't know how recent it was. But they've put it forward, so that's another industry that is going to strike soon. I mean, that's going to be approved.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very curious. I'm trying to keep my eyes on that one just because it's another industry of ours that we care a lot about. So I'm curious to see what happens with it. Um, but I've been watching The Bear on Hulu.
There.
It was on FX. It's about it's a guy. One of the kids from Shameless is in it. John
Mm.
Bernthal makes a couple of guest appearances in it. It's a pretty good show about a cook in a small little meat shop in Chicago.
Okay.
And so it's pretty good. I finished Ballers. I'm all the way done with it. Oh, God, how could I not mention this? I'm also watching Suits. So I
Mm.
am 13 episodes into the first season of Suits.
You're obviously very excited about it.
God, it's really, 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 really good. Like I'm one of those people. I was like, I would never watch like a lawyer s show or anything like that, but it's really good. The one of the main characters is he's got a very good photogenic memory, and so he is a lawyer, but
Okay.
he's not really a lawyer.
Right.
So like he never passed the bar or anything, but he's taken the bar for people. But he's never had enough money to like go to school and go to law school and like stuff like that. So it starts off with him taking I want to say the LSAT to get into law school, but he
Hmm.
signed someone else's name for it, and the person paid him like $1,000 to take the test, and that's what his job is. He goes and takes tests for people who can't pass these tests. So I thought that was kind of cool. Really good show. I advise it for if you're into that kind of thing. So I do want to talk about this show because we have a great week of content. It's always, I really enjoy the first couple of weeks. Well, I actually, enjoy all of the weeks we watch these horror films, as much as I'm a chicken shit and all this other stuff. But this is a really good week because My Adventures with Superman, episode 10, which is the finale for season one, and it is titled Hearts of the Fathers. A lot of things we predicted and talked about
Hmm.
did come true, and it was it because I just how they did it. But the little ending scene that happened, excellent. And I've already got another theory on it. We are getting a season two. Of course, I don't know when that's going to happen because they are also striking as well. Jack Quaid, um, is Superman. He is striking, so along with everybody else. So, but this was a banger, banger, banger finale. They did everything extremely well from the animation to the acting to the sound of all of it. The music was wonderful, and this is listen. As a Superman fan, we have been eating this year with season three of Superman and Lois, and now this show. We have had a
Hmm.
great year for Superman content, and they pulled it off. The finale, just chef's kiss, perfecto. Like I have no gripe or anything with this finale. I don't know about you, but just perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode too. Um, the series as a whole works real well. By the way, I keep getting alerts on my phone. Um, I can't remember what night they normally come in because the new episode of Harley Quinn has
Mm,
dropped, for the latest
yeah,
season. So, That's another one that we need to get back to at some point.
Yes, because we watched
Um,
season 1, and was it season
yeah,
5 is on right now?
I think so.
Chris, we might pull an audible, and that might be our TV show for, because we don't have anything till Loki.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and that's one we could probably. I think before we watched,
I think we did 2 episodes a week.
was it 2 or 3?
Might be 3.
But yeah, this was a nice run for My Adventures of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
They set some good stuff up for season 2.
Dude, season 2 is gonna be good,
Yeah,
especially what I
so
think is what they're
I'm
setting
excited.
up. So let's get into the little synopsis here from Wikipedia. Clark has nightmares about Zero Day. Perry promotes Clark, Lois, and Jimmy to full reporters for their article on Ivo's defeat. They're having thanks. Now I want to stop there because as they're walking into the office, they do something that TV shows rarely do, and acknowledge, especially MCU lately, is acknowledge the events of what happened in the previous episode or movie or anything. They're walking down the street, they get coffee or whatever, and they all three stop and look up at Ivo's monster. Like the silhouette's still there, like the shell, I guess, is still there in the middle of Metropolis. And not a lot of shows do that. We've seen Eternals with the giant stone. I forget what they're
And
called now. Entity. What are those
so,
things?
Celestial.
Yeah, the Celestial, just in the ocean, and nobody has talked about it since. Not even brought it. It's brought up like on a newscast, like in the background of the scene.
It was a newspaper headline on
Yeah, and like, it just I like that they acknowledge that. This is a great little part. So now they're full on reporters. They're not interns anymore. Wonderful. They have Thanksgiving dinner with Clark's parents, and Lois invites her father over, which no one knows his name or anything. They keep this kind of hush hush. At this point, I was like, aha, it is the general. Everyone's, thoughts are coming to fruition here, which is revealed to be the general, though he fails to recognize Clark. Although hilarious because he goes, I swear I know you from somewhere. He said, were you ever in the military or anything? And then he says, you ever taken off your glasses? And I was like, that's the general though. I mean, this is what he does. So it's pretty cool. In private, Clark finds File X and the green crystal, which hurts him. His space pod reacts to the crystal and releases a signal that prompts the invasion similar to Zero Day. Superman and Sam battle the invaders, with Jimmy learning the crystal hurts them as well. Superman takes the crystal and, despite being weakened, uses it to destroy his ship that brought him to Earth, halting the invasion. A hologram of his father helps him return down to Earth. Sam prepares to kill him, but Lois pleads for his life and reminds him that he just saved him, causing him to leave. Jimmy reveals he sold his social media platform, Flamebird, to the Daily Planet. What was it, like $6.8 million, and is now rich. Which is essentially kind of how this episode ends. I want to talk about that stuff before we get to the little epilogue scene that they showed here. Very, very well done. The fight scenes were excellent. I like the kryptonite messes with the red. I'm assuming it's the red kryptonite as well as powering everything. And that was really cool. His father coming in. I don't understand why he can't speak English, but does once Superman leaves at that one little point. I don't really understand that. I do like that his dad is still alive. Paul Kent is still alive. It is I liked him this whole episode. Watching the turkey, a very, country father thing to do, making sure the turkey is cooked. Still to get cooked all the way, but then Superman cooks it himself. Very well done. I really enjoyed that. And Lois stepping up to her dad is always great. And I really enjoyed the Mom and Pa Kent side of everything. Mm-hmm. She already had the story that just printed the day before, framed up in the living room with all their work and everything. I loved how Jimmy flowed in and out with the family, like he was a part of it. Obviously, there is some history there because he didn't want to go to college with him and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Just very well done. Like I said earlier, a really, really, really great episode, and one that I can't wait to get the physical media of if they release it, which they should. So,
yeah, they'll probably HBO Max or Max.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll probably. This is one that I wish they already had season 2 ready to go.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's gonna be a long time though.
Yeah.
Which just kind of sucks, and it's gonna be one of those I'm gonna have to rewatch just to kind of remember everything, that happened,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot that happens in this 23 minutes of show that we watch, and so. But the big thing that happens here at the end, on a distant world, we see a creature, and his name is Brainiac, informs a mysterious Kryptonian warrior about the halted invasion. The mysterious Kryptonian vows that Earth will soon kneel. Now, Chris, who do we know that says that? One of his big,
Zod.
yes, one of his big taglines, General Zod, always wants everyone else to kneel. And I figured it was so when the soldiers lit up when the kryptonite reacted and came out. Like I saw the little tri circles, the two eyes that bridged like the little circle right here. I was like, are they doing a
Mm.
Brainiac little scene here? And that's what happened. And sure enough, I think what happened was Brainiac and General Zod came to terms or whatever, and then Clark's dad, Zor-El, sent him down to Earth. So
See, whenever anyone says Brainiac, I miss Krypton.
yes, God, man, Krypton was such a that was a show I think honestly was before its time, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just not around anymore. Man, what a show that was. But that is our end of our season one of My Adventures with Superman. I really can't wait for season two. We know it is coming, just don't know
Yeah.
when. Um, but until then, we'll bring you some more content before Loki comes. We'll probably do Harley Quinn. We got to talk about that though. We'll talk about that off air, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we don't need y'all up in our business. All right, we'll let you know. Okay, take it easy. Releases for the next 2 weeks, because a week from today, which we normally do our Sunday recordings, is my birthday, and we'll be going out to dinner, so we won't be able to record. But don't fret, we have already put everything in. You're not going to miss anything. We've already got it all. We know what we're doing here. We're the best at what we do. Releases for the next two
Well,
weeks. Wednesday, September 6th. I Am Groot Little Short Season 2 comes in on Disney+. Sunday, September 10th. The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon premieres on AMC. Because more of those, you know?
I have seen previews, and I'll say this: it looks more interesting than the main show looked its
Oh,
last 2 or 3 years.
and everybody likes Daryl Dixon more than anybody. So
Yeah.
that's like everyone's favorite character. And then, Negan and Maggie have their own show together, too.
Yeah.
So, which I don't understand how that works, considering he brutally murdered him and all this other stuff. Anyways, so anywho, that is it for our TV section of the week.
That means we're getting to Tyler's favorite part of the show.
We got a lot of fun to talk about this week. Okay.
All right. First up, have you watched anything else?
Yes. Watched a little movie today, actually. My Steelbook came in yesterday, which randomly came in on Saturday. Don't understand that. Across the Spider-Verse came in.
Ah,
So I watched it with Jamie and Stella today. And just as good the second time. Like the theme, like, because I've seen things that, of course, after watching it, people on the internet, like to bring things up, say, hey, did you see this theme? Did you see this, this, and this? Really enjoyed it. I forget what score I gave it, but I'm still right there at it. Not as good as the
such
first
a
one,
long
but still a
movie, though.
great movie. So,
It was such a long movie, though.
yes, it was. That's Stella said that at the end. She goes, that was a really long time. I said, yes, baby, it was. I think they could have cut some things out, but,
Or just saved them for the next one.
yeah, or save it for the next one, because I still don't know how we're going to ramp everything up when we can ramp it up in 15 minutes. I don't know.
I think people would have had less of a problem with the wrap-up film
Mm,
being longer, unless it is going to be longer. And
right. Which I don't know how, because I just don't
here's
know
a
how.
4-hour animated Spider-Man film.
Which, they're on a
Um,
hiatus too. No one's even working on it until strike's over. So,
right, right. So first up, we want to talk about, I guess, Black Phone. Right?
yes.
Uh, so this was a first-time watch for me.
Same here. I mean, all of these are
Uh,
first time watches for me. I'm just going to flat out point that out.
well, not all of them, right? You've seen one. You've seen one that we have coming up before.
I've seen Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, two then.
Uh, the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I don't remember it. I blocked it from my
Well,
memory.
no, because you thought it was the Bell Witch. So
Yeah,
I don't think
so
you've seen it.
no, that's
Uh,
just wonderful.
all right. Let me pull up the synopsis here. So I'll read through the synopsis, but there's a lot to unpack with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've got questions.
Okay, I mean, I might be able to answer.
I've got questions. Um, because it's interesting for sure. Um, so this came out in 2021. Came out September 20. Okay, so it came out June 24th of 2022 in the US,
Mm.
but it debuted September 25th, 2021 at Fantastic Fest. Um, which is why there's a discrepancy. I will say before we get started too, this is based on a short story um, written by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King.
Oh, I didn't
So,
know that.
and in the short story, the grabber, who is the culprit in all this, is a clown because he kind of was inspired by John Wayne Gacy.
Hmm.
But because of it, which we're going to be watching for the next show,
Mm-hmm.
Joe Hill, when they decided to make this into a movie, said, let's change him to a magician
Hmm.
because he didn't want that parallel with his dad's
Yeah, makes sense.
work.
I get that.
Um, so, in 1978, a serial child abductor and murderer nicknamed the Grabber prowls the streets of a Denver suburb. Siblings Finney and Gwen Blake live in the area with their abusive alcoholic father. At school, Finney's frequently bullied and harassed. He has a friendship with a classmate, Robin, who fends off the bullies. A boy that Finney knew, Bruce, is abducted by the Grabber. Gwen, who has psychic dreams much like her late mother, dreams of Bruce's kidnapping. Detectives Wright and Miller interview Gwen at school, believing she has inside knowledge. She refuses to help, but is still punished by the sibling's father for speaking with the detectives. Shortly after, the Grabber abducts Robin. Days later, the Grabber kidnaps Finney. He awakens in a soundproofed basement. On the wall is a disconnected black rotary phone. Later, Finney hears the phone ring and answers it. Bruce's ghost tells Finney about a floor tile he can remove to dig a tunnel to escape. The police search for Finney is unsuccessful. The Grabber brings Finney food and leaves the door unlocked. Finney's tempted to sneak out. Billy, another boy on the phone, calls and explains this is a game the Grabber plays. He's waiting to punish Finney if he leaves the basement. Yeah, the, they refer to the game as Naughty Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Billy instructs him to use a cord to get out via the basement window. His attempts break the bars on the window grate, preventing him from climbing back up. Gwen dreams of Billy being abducted and confides in her father. Wright and Miller speak to an eccentric man called Max who's staying in the area with his brother. It's revealed Finney's in the clueless Max's basement and the Grabber is Max's brother. Finney speaks to another victim, Griffin, on the phone. Griffin gives Finney the lock combination and informs him the Grabber is asleep upstairs. Finney sneaks upstairs and unlocks the door, but the Grabber's dog alerts him of the escape, and Finney is quickly recaptured. Finney hears from another victim, a delinquent called Vance, whom Finney
Loved
was scared
Vance.
of. Yeah. Following Vance's instructions, Finney breaks a hole in the wall and enters the back of the freezer in the adjacent storage room, but the freezer door is locked tight. Finney hits his breaking point and begins to cry. The phone rings one more time. Robin comforts Finney and encourages him to stand up and fight for himself. He teaches Finney to punch and to pack dirt inside the phone receiver to use as a weapon. Gwen has a vision of the Grabber's house. She contacts Wright and Miller. Max realizes Finney's being held in the house and rushes to the basement to free him, only for his brother to kill him with an axe. The police rush to the house that Gwen found. In the basement, they find the buried bodies of the victims. Deciding it's time to end the game with Finney, the Grabber attacks him with the axe. Using the byproducts from his failed escape attempts, Finney immobilizes the Grabber. As the ghosts taunt the Grabber over the phone, Finney snaps his neck with the phone cord. Distracting the dog with meat from the freezer, Finney exits the house, which turns out to be across the street from the burial site. He reunites with Gwen. The siblings' father arrives and tearfully begs forgiveness for his earlier treatment of them. Back at school, a confident Finney sits next to his crush in class and says to her, she can call him Finn.
Mm.
Uh, there's a lot here.
Yes, and I cannot wait to talk. I really, really, really enjoyed this movie, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the first thing, Jeremy Davies, who plays the father, he
Hmm.
is so good at these types of
Yes,
roles.
like that
I mean,
was. I
he's
was so. Was your film darker, like that grittier, like '70s kind of movie?
yeah.
Okay, because I'm just making sure it wasn't my TV. I kept messing with the settings and things. Jamie says, I think it's intentionally this way. She goes, it looks like it's set in the 70s. She goes, I think it's meant to be that way. And then as soon as she says that, the date came up, 1978. She goes, I'm so good. And I was like, I hate you. So, um, Finn watches a movie, like at the very beginning on TV. The blood, the
hmm
body feels of blood, the tub does. What movie is
hmm
that from?
That is the Tingler, I believe.
I hate you. I cannot. I can't stand you. Because when that happened, I said, I wonder if Chris knows what movie that is. And Jeremy says, oh, he does. I was like, I don't think so. I hate you so much. I
Um, so this film, I'll say this: I gave it 3.5 stars.
think that's what I
Um,
gave it.
and the reason being,
Yes.
so it's about 103 minutes of runtime. I actually could have used like 7 more minutes.
Yeah, I could have used a little bit more here.
I wish that we'd gotten a couple more scenes with the detectives.
Hmm.
Um, and I would have liked just a little more fleshing out of some of the story. Um, so my because in trying to figure out what exactly had happened, my assumption is this: the house, and I got started thinking on it because it was either on Letterboxd or on something else. Someone had put a question up wanting to know how the grabber could afford two houses as a magician. And my assumption is the house across the street where the bodies are buried is the house he and his brother grew up in, where they probably
Mm.
had a father who treated them the way Finn's father treats him. Because they have a connection. Remember, there's this at the very beginning, I think it's Bruce's voice. He says, only you and the grabber can hear the phone.
Mm-hmm.
No one else, like all the other kids kidnapped, could not hear the phone. But Finn can hear it. And I think it's because he has a kind of
He's
connection.
psychic in there. My thought was he's psychic like his sister was because of their mother.
Could
Because
be.
the father kept saying multiple times, he says they're just dreams. Your mother was seeing things, hearing things, and was having dreams about things. He said they weren't actually happening, and then like they kept alluding to. This is how I took it. They kept
hmm
alluding to, the daughter, the sister was having the dreams, and she was seeing the lines and stuff like that. So it's okay. She's clearly psychic, and so that's how I took it. The only reason he could hear the phones because he was talking to he had that psychic connection to the dead people, and that's how like I figured. But it doesn't really explain the grabber and how he could hear the phone ringing.
Yeah. Well, he had a connection to all of them in some way but Griffin.
Hmm.
Because Griffin talks about how he's invisible.
That was the
You know,
paper boy, right?
no,
No,
that was
that was the one
Billy.
that was upside down hanging. Ugh.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Griffin's, I don't think he's ever even seen in the film
Mm-mm.
because he talks about being invisible to everybody.
Can we talk about how crappy this not the detectives but the police force are here in the community? You've got like six abducted kids, no curfew, nobody walking kids home because they've all been abducted around the school. What the hell?
At least, at least it's in a bigger city though, like Denver. If it
Right.
was a smaller town,
It
it would
should have
really
been a
be
little bit
bad.
more, yeah.
Um,
So it looks like the some trivia here. At least three of the victims are references to DC Comics. Bruce, Batman, Robin as Boy Wonder, and Billy and Shazam. All the boys.
yeah.
I was like,
hmm
hmm, it's pretty cool.
one other thing too is when they find, so the police are canvassing and they go to the house that Max is in. So basically, where the victims have been kept. Now Max doesn't know this. He's actually trying to figure it out, right?
So
He's got a map.
funny, which cracked me up.
But what's funny is like he comes off as a crackpot because he's trying to get all this breakthrough that he's come to out to them. And so they just brush him off and they get out of there. And then he walks over to the coffee table and he snorts a line of
That's a
coke.
lot of coke.
So it was laying right there, right?
Right.
They just never see it.
No,
They don't pay attention to it.
he's white. It didn't matter.
Um, it's
There's a lot of good
but
trivia on here on IMDb.
yeah, they usually have a lot of good trivia on there. One thing I kind of went dark at one point trying to figure this movie out. You've seen Fight Club, right?
No.
You've not seen Fight Club.
Mm-mm.
We
Even if I
can't
did, I
talk
wouldn't
about
talk
this
about
theory.
it.
We can't talk about this theory if you haven't seen Fight Club. Um, but I did have a theory that was, what if Finn's involved in this? What if he's had a psychic break? And like, what if the grabber grabbed the first few, but then the ones that Finn had personal encounters with,
Mhm.
he had actually killed?
See, I was waiting for a twist like that.
Because the ending of the movie, when he looks at the girl that he likes,
Hmm.
and he says, "Call me Finn," and he has this like
Arrogant
confidence.
little, yeah.
I'm like, he's going to be the next killer.
Hmm.
This has twisted him around, and he's going to be the next one that starts killing people.
I want a second movie. Like this is one that I really enjoy. Like even if it would follow Finn or a sister like grown up or something like that, and they both have their psychic powers or whatever. Um, but like instead this time something happens to her, but apparently there's no, not even in the works, even thought about it or anything. So I'm like, okay.
I think the director said that he would come back for a second one.
Well, it's Scott Derrickson. He's done a lot of our Spider-Man movies and
Hmm.
Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. So
Yeah, actually, I think this was the one that he went to after that.
yep, so made this his next project after leaving Doctor Strange over creative differences.
Yeah.
So
Um,
a lot of references
it's
to Stephen King and stuff like that, obviously. So it's pretty cool. I gave this one a 3.5. Jamie gave this one a, let me double check, a 4. She really enjoyed this one.
yeah.
And at first, I didn't think I was going to like it because it was kind of a little slower at the beginning. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, But like once it hits a point, I forget which part it was. Maybe probably the first phone call. It started ramping up. He was like, oh, dig under
Hmm.
the floor. I left some dirt when I tried to escape. And one said, oh, I left some wire in the crack there. But it was
Yeah.
all very cool. And when what was his buddy's name? I can't remember the last phone call.
Robin.
Robin. So he said, pack it full of dirt. He said, go forward, go back, go forward, go back, then strike. And I was like, that must be. I said, he's teaching him to do something because something's going to happen. Because like it was kind of like a premonition kind of thing. And sure enough, when the grabber was in the hole, he would go act like he was going for him. The grabber would reach, so he would back up. The same thing, and then he would swing. I was like, this is all premonition stuff. Like so, he used everything from all those phone calls to kill the grabber. And
Yeah.
the phone call was so very hype right at the end. He said, I think the phone call's for you. And it was Bruce, and he said, Finney's got a hell of an arm or something like
Got
that.
a mint arm.
Yeah, he's got a mint arm, and he snaps his neck. I was like, that was awesome. And then, see, I was expecting a bigger twist than what was at the end because the twist at the end was it was the house across the street. Essentially, was the twist. I was expecting something different because, like, when they were going through that first house, because they'll follow the police officers, the detectives, I was like, oh, there's nothing in this house. I said, so I was thinking, oh, this happened a long time ago. This is a twist. She's seeing into the past or something like that. And then they were going to get down that door, and then he would still be trapped in there because everyone's dead and there was something blocking the door. But then when they were going to the door that was blocked to the basement, I was like, oh, he couldn't have done that. He couldn't have blocked it from the outside after he came down and killed his brother. So that they couldn't have been it. And then they revealed that it was across the street, and that's where he was burying the kids. I got concerned for a second, and it was going to be a lot lower of a rating for me, but they redeemed it at the end, because when he walks out of the house, he walks down there and hugs his sister, and I thought that was going to be the end of the movie. I was like, no, I'm going to need some follow-up here. Like, these cops are still across the street, and then they said, get the kids, he's there, and then, Finn whispers the basement. I was like, okay, we redeemed ourselves. I didn't really need the scene at the end with the girl. Him walking through the hallway, sure, because it had the bully redemption kind of going there.
Right.
But I did not need the whole, you call me just Finn. I was like,
yeah, that's why I thought, okay, there's something to that.
Yeah.
Like, he's either really confident now, and because he lived through that, he survived it. So he's not fearful anymore, or he's snapped.
Yeah.
And there's something in it, because they talk about how a lot of killers like that are charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Hill wrote the original story basing it on some serial killers. Ted Bundy was a very charismatic serial killer. And maybe that's the progression that this kid takes. I don't know. But I thought initially, even though we knew Ethan Hawke was the star of the movie, right? I thought Jeremy Davies as the dad was going to be involved somehow.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, the way he was acting, like he was like, "What did you tell them?" And I guess it was he was worried about them telling him he beats both these kids senseless. It was like a classic like trope. I felt like for these 70-year dads to be alcoholics and child abusers. So I was like, "There's something up with here." And then I was trying to figure out the grabber. Like I was trying to figure him out. And I'm pretty sure that kid, he was probably abused as well. But I think he had multiple personality disorders. And because each mask was different, but each time he wore a different mask, he was a different character. Like one was caring, one wanted to play the naughty boy game. And one was kind of creepy, like it was feeling all up on Finn. I was like, please tell me this, we're not about to watch somebody's weird child pornography kind of thing.
Well, and on top of it, when Finn rips the mask off, he's exposed.
Yeah, he completely starts covering his face, and
a couple scenes though that I liked. Well, one that I liked. I shouldn't say I liked both these. I liked one, and there was one that just made me want to jump through the TV. The one that I liked was Robin wailing on the guy.
Yes, right at the beginning. Dude, that was great.
This guy thought because he was a bully that he could just do what he wanted, and Robin's like, no.
Yeah, and so I love the backstory. And like, we didn't get a whole lot of Robin in the show, but we got a lot of his history too, which I thought was cool because he said, my dad went to Vietnam and stayed, protected his friends and family,
and that's why he didn't come home.
And that's why he didn't come home. He said, I'm gonna do the same thing here. He said, but I'm not leaving you, Finn. He's been with you the whole time. He said, but it's time to fight for yourself. I was like, oh God, that was really like. We got a lot of good character development in a very short amount of time with some of these characters. Like a lot of these kids I understood and got, and we only had like maybe 2 minutes of screen time about them. Like the one long-haired rocker character, Rebel kid, who was held back 2 grades. Vance, like that was like a throwaway line I thought at the beginning of the movie. They're talking about Vance because one of the missing kids. I was like, okay. But then we see the little backstory, and sure enough, there's Finn in the background of this whole story of when we're talking about it. And I'm like, oh, it's just so cool how they did something like that.
And see, that's kind of what made me think that it was a deal on his part where he had a psychotic break. And he started taking out some of these people that he knew. But the scene that made me want to jump through the TV was when Jeremy Davies as the dad is just wearing his daughter out that belt.
That was brutal. She said, if you drop that $7 bottle of vodka, he said, I'm going to hit you harder. And he jumps at her. And so she, naturally drops it and then started beating her worse. And I was like, God, like that was a little rough, but it made you understand what the home life was like for both of these kids. So, but man, I think this was a great movie to not to pat myself on the back here. I feel this is a great movie to start us out on because there was some horror nonsense in this. Okay, there were
There
ghosts.
was.
The one kid, and which is in the trailer of him upside down dangling with his throat slit, and I was like, then he eventually points to the door or the wall or something like that. I was like horrifying. Like, please don't ever do that. But having like that, we didn't talk about this. I really enjoyed was whenever he would answer the phone, the kids were in the room
Yeah.
and they're talking, and like it would kind of show them talking, but it sounded like they were talking through the phone. It was really
Mhm.
cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Um, and I just thought
And
it
it
was
gave you
like
an idea of what he had done to them, right?
right,
Because Vance has no eyes.
yeah. And it was,
So
and the one kid, bleeding upside down, and everything, his throat cut. It was really cool and really well done of how they
yeah.
did this. I would like a second one, and I don't say that a lot about these horror shows. I would like a second one of
I
these.
I don't know if I would want to see a continuation or if I'd want to see a prequel that
So
showcases
his,
how the grabber
yeah.
became the grabber.
Oh, that'd
Yeah.
be cool. I'd actually be okay with that too. So,
Yeah. All right. Our second film, Tyler's favorite, I think.
God, terrifying. Babadook. Oh
Um,
man.
the Babadook. So this is this was from 2014. Um, it's I'll say this. Before I'd ever seen it, the posters, I was like, I don't know if I want to see that, because
Yeah.
the post, like the the image, which is the image on the front cover of the slipcase here, it's just this short, kind of squatty.
Yeah, a little top
That
hat character.
yeah, I was like, I don't know about that, but then you watch it, and it's like, okay,
Mm, I can see why.
I'm in. Yeah. Um, so let's jump in here. The plot: Amelia Vanek is a troubled and exhausted widow living in Adelaide, set in Australia,
Mhm.
um, who's brought up her 6-year-old son Samuel alone. Her late husband Oscar was killed in a car accident when he drove Amelia to the hospital during labor. Sam begins displaying erratic behavior. Does he ever? He becomes an insomniac and is preoccupied with an imaginary monster which he's built weapons to fight. Amelia is forced to pick him up from school when he takes one of the weapons there. One night he asked his mother to read a pop-up storybook called Mr. Babadook. It describes the titular monster, the Babadook, a tall, pale-faced humanoid in a top hat with taloned fingers which torments its victims after they become aware of its existence. Amelia is disturbed by the book and its mysterious appearance, while Sam becomes convinced that the Babadook is real. Sam's persistence about the Babadook leads Amelia to have sleepless nights as she tries to comfort him. Soon after, strange events occurred. Doors mysteriously open and close, there are strange sounds, and Amelia finds glass shards in her food. She attributes the events to Sam's behavior, but he blames the Babadook. Amelia rips up the book and disposes of it. At her okay. At her birthday party, Sam's cousin Ruby bullies Sam for not having a father. She was a little twit.
Yeah, she got everything that came to her. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. And he pushes her out of her
Yeah.
treehouse, breaking her nose. Amelia's sister Claire admits she cannot bear Sam, to which Amelia takes great offense. On the drive home, Sam has another vision of the Babadook and suffers a seizure. Amelia gets some sedatives from a pediatrician who treats him. The next morning, Amelia finds the Mr. Babadook book reassembled on the front doorstep. New words in it taunt her, saying the Babadook will become stronger if she continues to deny its existence, and it now contains pop ups of her killing their dog Bugsy, Sam, and then herself. Terrified, she burns the book and runs to the police station after a disturbing phone call. However, she has no proof of the stalking, and when she then sees the Babadook's suit hung up behind the front desk, she leaves. That night, as she tries to fall asleep, she sees the Babadook open her bedroom door, crawl up the ceiling, and attack her. She then turns on all the lights in the house and falls asleep with Sam downstairs. After the attack, Amelia becomes more isolated and impatient, shouts at Samuel for disobeying her constantly, and has more visions of the Babadook. She exhibits erratic and violent behavior, including cutting the phone line with a knife and waving the same knife aggressively at Sam. She has disturbing hallucinations in which she sees herself murdering Sam. Amelia sees an apparition of Oscar who offers to return to her if she brings the boy to him. Realizing he's a creation of the Babadook, she flees, and the Babadook stalks her through the house until it finally possesses her. Under its influence, she breaks Bugsy's neck and attempts to kill Sam. Eventually luring her into the basement, Sam knocks her out. Tied up, Amelia awakens with Sam terrified nearby. When she tries to strangle him, he lovingly caresses her face, causing her to regurgitate an inky black substance, which seemingly expels the Babadook. However, Sam reminds Amelia, "You can't get rid of the Babadook," and an unseen force drags him backwards into Amelia's bedroom. She saves Sam, but is forced to see a vision of her husband's death. Furious, she confronts the Babadook, making it retreat into the basement, and she locks the door behind it. Eventually, Amelia and Sam manage to recover. She's attentive and caring toward him, encouraging him with building his weapons and being impressed at his magic tricks. In the garden, they gather worms in a bowl. Amelia takes it to the basement and places it on the floor. The Babadook tries to attack her, but she soothes it and it retreats to the corner, taking the bowl of worms with it. She returns to the yard to celebrate Sam's birthday. So, I gave this another 3.5.
Much
I
higher.
really liked it. I really liked it. The Babadook basically represents grief and depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's other ways to make
but there,
movies about this, though, guys. A horror movie, not the best medium. I'm just gonna flat out say it. All right, let's just make another soapy soapbox, movie. We don't have to talk
no,
about this way.
no, no. Now, this is the good thing about horror, though. We can talk about all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
and just be out front with it. Um, Perfect casting. This kid at the beginning, especially, he does really well at playing the part of a little shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, dude, calm down. He screams about stuff. He, you can understand why she's at the end of her rope
Right.
and why she would be vulnerable to even the suggestion of something like this existing. Um, like going into the police station and she sees a coat hanging up and she sees it as the Babadook's coat and hands and hat. Um, the effects are good. They don't. One thing I liked about it, they didn't feel the need to show us everything about the Babadook,
Mm.
so that they didn't they didn't overly expose the character. You catch glimpses.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
yeah.
I was reading, like they did stop animation for all that. Like it was
Uh-huh.
not CGI. It wasn't like any special effects or anything. It was all stop animation. And then I also read like that they didn't do anything with the Babadook with the kid actor because they didn't want to traumatize him or something like that. And I was like, okay,
Yeah, I read one of those too. They said that it would be a crew member on their knees to
yeah,
simulate his height. And then when he was on set to get his reaction, they were saying stuff like, "We're going to throw all your Legos in the river," and
right.
because he was actually 6 years old
Mm-hmm.
filming this movie.
Which he hadn't been in, looks like hardly anything, at least anything good. Like the last thing I was been in is like 2020 in some sappy movie. So I wasn't that high on this one. I didn't really enjoy the story, and I felt like it was kind of paced weird. I gave this a 2 out of 5,
Oh.
which it did the intended effect. It did terrify me, but I like to be terrified for like a good reason. Like I want a good story. Like it's just kind of like a direct contrast to Black Phone. Black Phone had the creepiness in there, had the ghosts and stuff, but the story and how they told it was really well done. This one just didn't really do it for me. I don't know what it was. And then, so Jamie gave this a 1. I said, Jamie, this is the one you wanted us to watch. She was like, yeah. She goes, but I thought I'd want to ease you into these movies. I was like, but you gave this a 1 out of 5. I would pick something different. Anyways, um, but like the ending, I did not like, and I even looked up as our second one because essentially
Oh,
they trap the Babadook in the basement, and she's feeding the thing. It even like the kid actually goes, "Well, I eventually get to see him." She said, "Yeah, when you're older." I'm like,
yeah.
okay, she's gonna live here the whole
Well,
time, or
I think it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, but it's like just like a metaphor. Is he's
yeah.
older and he understands grief and
Well, that's
loss and
and once I read
depression
that
more than
after
me. Oh,
watching the movie, I was like, oh, I can understand why this was. But grief
mhm.
didn't kill Bugsy. That poor dog was R.I.P. I was so glad they did not kill off the neighbor. Because when she
I
appeared on
thought
the
it was
door,
gonna.
I was like, oh, she killed her and she came back and we're going to find her on the doorstep here in a minute. Glad that didn't
Yeah.
happen. But I do think the most interesting parts of this film was when she was possessed by the Babadook. I felt like that's when her character came alive, or the actress rather,
Mhm.
because the way she was treating the kid, holding the knife around and everything, saying all these things to him was really,
Oh
really
yeah,
cool.
because there's the scene when she's already possessed and she's trying to lay down though.
Hmm.
She's tired and he comes to her and he's like, "I'm hungry," and she says, "If you're that hungry, go eat shit." And
Yeah,
it's like, "Oh,
I was like, God, that was
I'm
like our
not that
first,
hungry."
yeah, because he
Never mind.
But like that next scene, because she goes up to apologize, he said, "I already ate already," and she's like, "Oh, what'd you eat?" And I told Jamie, I said, "He just ate shit." Oh man, I'm trying to think what else with this one. Um, the the DCS was pretty funny. They came the first
Mhm.
time. I was like, "Oh, they're definitely taking this kid away," because like everything she kept saying, she goes, "Oh, there's a hole in the wall behind the fridge." There was no hole behind
Yeah.
the fridge. And then they came into the next part. It was kind of sad. But like, if you think of it, like I will never rewatch this movie. Well, I'm not gonna say never because some crazy things have happened in life. But knowing it from like a grief perspective, that's what the whole Babadook story is, a telling of grief. And if you think about
Right.
the whole thing, like Sam has never had a birthday on the actual day. Well, it's because the mom was always too grief stricken because that's when her husband died. And so,
Mhm.
like, that was kind of cool. And, like, that's what brings us to the DCS thing. Like, oh, whose birthday? Y'all having a birthday party? Whose birthday is it? She goes, oh, it's mine. I've never had a birthday before. And they were kind of looked at her like, what? And she goes, oh, it's the day that he said, that's the day my dad died. Or dad was brutally murdered. He said something like off the cuff like that.
That yeah, dad was killed, taking mom to the hospital
Yeah, to have me.
to have me.
That was rough. By the way, them showing the reenacting the accident, like just the head just gets cut straight through and just plumps down. Like God, I was not expecting any of that. I was also doing that during that scene, but it's not the best movie. Like even with Poltergeist, 2 years ago, I enjoyed the story of that one more than this one. But like I don't know. This one's not so much aimed at me though. I feel like so. I thought it was fine,
Yeah.
just not great. You know. So. Mm,
Cool.
mm, mm, mm.
Well, the next show, um, which we're gonna record it 2 weeks from now,
Mm.
but it won't be that long between content on the channel. Um, we are going to do, let's see, are we doing it part one and two
And
on
vampires.
that one? And John Carpenter's Vampires.
So technically, it'll be
It's a little,
3 movies, but that's just
yeah,
how. For some reason, my wife put that on her list. Is it part one and part two? So
yeah,
whatever.
together. Makes sense though.
Yeah.
And then we'll find a time to work in. I think Haunted Mansion's probably going to end up being
Everything
maybe
I'm
even the
seeing is still
last.
saying October. So
It's probably going to end up being the last week, I would think, because Tyler's going to want something funny
a palate cleanser.
to go with the film that we have listed
Listen,
last.
she was not budging last night on me watching the Babadook during the daytime. Not budging. And I was not okay with that. So, God, I just hopefully some of these movies she'll be like, okay, we could watch during the daytime, like Exorcist,
Mm-mm.
Omen, Hereditary. I want during the daytime, like particularly 9 o'clock in the morning when the sun is shining. So,
What if it's overcast that day, Tyler?
we'll just have all the lights on still and just go with it.
Um, but yeah, so it part one and two, and John Carpenter's Vampires.
Which I'm excited
Um,
about that one. That's one of these. Like, there's several of these. I'm genuinely excited to watch because I've never seen it but heard things about.
yeah, we got some good movies on the list this year.
Mm-hmm.
Releases this week. Speaking of horror films, in cinemas on September the 8th, The Nun 2,
That's in the Conjuring universe.
which,
Which
yeah,
I'm drawing the lines on some of these movies when we come up to some of these years. Like Sinister, I will never watch. That would just
no,
never be unless we do like some sort of charity drive and raise enough money or something.
ooh, if we ever have enough to do a live stream, we could do a watch along.
Oh God, that's mm-mm-mm.
Um, Sinister actually is the previous time that Ethan Hawke and
Scott
who
Derrickson.
directed, yeah, Scott Derrickson worked together.
That's what they were saying, like in some of the trivia. The phone line underneath the wall was something to
Hmm.
do was like a callback to Sinister or something like that.
On September the 15th in cinemas, A Haunting in Venice.
That one looks decent because it's more of like a serial killer.
That's the one with all the different people on the poster, right?
Yeah,
That's
well,
a
but one
that's a
mustachioed dude is
yeah,
in
that's
it.
a Agatha Christie story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's kind of what I'm
Tyler
talking
would be all for watching that.
about. you know. Oh, baby, ladies and gentlemen, I really, really, really hope you enjoyed this first week of our Horror Fest 2023. Some good conversations. I think we had some. I think that was probably some of our most in-depth discussions we've had in a while about some of our films, which I really, really enjoy. And we'll see what these
Hmm.
next three bring. I'm not too particularly worried about. I notice a lot of gore in the retelling, but I like the Skarsgård brothers a lot,
Yeah,
so I'm really looking forward to
I
that.
I will say this though, it's nice to do some. I like our superhero content,
Mhm.
um, but we've been a lot of these have been rewatches that we've been doing, so there's not a lot new that I think either of us feels like we have to add,
Right.
and it's nice to get to something different tonally than
Hmm.
that because it can kind of get monotonous at
Yeah.
times.
So
You need to break it up.
a lot of fun. A lot of sleepless nights for me here, and God. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, hope you really enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think of the content. If there are any movies you think next year we need to watch, anything you enjoyed from any of these films, let us know down in the comments below. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. Working on Threads still. I apologize. With Monday coming up tomorrow, with it being Labor Day, I plan to. Actually, hey Siri, set a reminder for 8 a.m. to look into Threads for Nerdwide Podcast. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's done. Um, Thank you. If I could listen, I could not live my life without Siri or Alexa. I don't know how people did it before this, but I couldn't do it. All right,
You might want to add Jamie onto that list.
that one as well. Thank you, Chris. Keep it and Jamie. I
Yeah.
don't know how I survived without any of these three women in my life. Jamie, most important. But don't forget to share it on all your favorite social media platforms. We are on everything. Just search up Nerdwide on Twitter. Will be Threads, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. We're on all of it. Just follow us on there for all the updates there. Going to be doing some vloggy stuff soon. I've got one of our friends writes a couple of horror little short stories. I'm going to be reading those now that we are in the month of September. And reviewing those. Don't know how we're going to put that content into our show and stuff yet, but just keep update on our socials for all of that. That'll be the first place we talk about any of it. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been this week's episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. Hope you're enjoying this horror-thon, whatever you would call this, 2023, because we are just at the beginning. But until then, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Stay scary, everybody.
Later, guys.